Haley came in first because reading was so hard for her. And when she would try to read, it would just, create the tears and all that. And then one day she had her finger going along and she came across the word the. And she knew how to spell this word for years. But when she looked at that word, she said, "Mommy, I've just never seen that word before." And I said, what word are you seeing? And she combined the word in front of it and the word behind it, and she started to spell it. And so I realized she's pushing words together. And I said, okay, then we're going to take care of this. So I had learned about the Vision Therapy Center just, from somebody else talking about their kid needing it. Came here, and sure enough, she had the convergence, insufficiency that I learned about, but she also had bilateral intermittent strabismus. So each eye, and I didn't realize it was that bad until the doctor was doing this test where, she would have to follow something, and her little eye would go bloop, bloop, and the other one bloop, bloop, and it was intermittent, so it wasn't there all the time, and it was both eyes. And Dr. B had said, "Do you see what's going on?" And actually my stomach turned because it looked so gross. And I said, "I do now," but I said, when I read with her, she's either in my lap or she's next to me. I'm not staring at her eyes. So what was happening is she was trying to track those words. Her eyes were, moving the wrong directions. And so she couldn't see, she couldn't read. She was never going to be able to read until that was corrected. And so, we started the process of the vision therapy, and then I said, well, I have this other girl who's actually reading years ahead of schedule, but when she reads, she sometimes skips the smaller words like ofs and thes, or sometimes a he would become a she and a she would become a he. And her teachers, she was in school at the time, and they had said, well, we can't progress her to the next level until she stops doing that. And I thought, 6 months went by, and I thought, she's still doing this. And she was getting bored with that level. Even though it was a few years ahead, she was getting bored. So I had asked Dr. B, what about this other kid? And he said, bring her in. And she also had headaches with reading. And they tested her, and actually her test scores were some of the lowest they've ever seen in the history, like it's in certain areas. And here this kiddo was like above grade level. And so I would have never known that that was an issue. And I thought to myself, gosh, if I didn't get her checked, she would have just stalled at that point and never progressed. So she started the vision therapy too. The headaches went away pretty fast, actually. And now when she reads, she's not skipping the words. And she would even have the ability to pull words down from like a few sentences above. Because I'm like, where did that word come from? And I realized it was up higher on the page. And now she reads out loud all the time, and she has no problems. And Haley, who, with my first one, who really just couldn't even read and would want to throw the book and, this doesn't make any sense and I hate reading. Now she's like, Mommy, let's go to the bookstore again. And now I walk out of the store or the library just with 30 books, because they want to read and they enjoy reading now. So it's made a huge difference. Well, they had to come like every week. So you just have to make that commitment that, it's kind of like that credit card commercial, like, what's the price of this? And I thought, well, this is priceless. Like, how do you put a price on your child's self-esteem and their frustration levels? So we just made it, this time we were already homeschooling by now, and we made it just a part of our day. So we would come to vision therapy, and they enjoyed the little reward. They always get a little toy at the end of every session. So the therapy sessions were kind of the fun things. That was the fun part. It was the work at home. You have to do it at home. But then again, they have rewards too if the child does X amount of days at home. And we just made it part of our routine. And as much as I wanted to dive into like, let's get to our reading or let's get to our math, I kept having to tell myself, no, I have to do vision first because everything else relies on vision. And they're never going to progress in reading, or they're never, even with math, when the numbers all kind of blur, they're never going to get to that point if I don't start with the vision. So I just made it, let's go to our vision girls. And even if in the beginning there were tears from the girls, sometimes I think I wanted to cry. But as a parent, I realized like how much trouble they really had, when they were doing their tracking exercises, and you'd realize they're all over the page. I thought, oh my gosh, this kid really needed this. Or the one where they have got different exercises on the wall and they just have to, read the letters, and they couldn't because they were losing track of which was the next one. And that's, for me at home, like that was the aha, like, oh my gosh, my kid really, really needs this. This is really hard for them. So, and we just made it a family affair. My husband would be in there doing it, and I'd be trying to get involved, and we just made it all of us doing it. So, and they did see the progression. They were not doing the same exercise for 9 months. I mean, they saw that life was going to get better and get easier. So, yeah. Okay, well, for me, I don't have to see the frustration in their eyes anymore, or just in their face. Like with Haley, it was just she was defeated, you know. And when because that's how her eyes were all along. She didn't know any different. So I think for her, she would look around at other kids and why are they able to do this and why can't I do this? And as a parent, that's it just hurts in your heart. So that has just changed immensely because their self-esteem gets, better, and they feel better about themselves. And then you just take that breath, like, okay, got that one done, won that battle. So with Haley, just that was huge. And with Hope, here's a child who would love to read 3 hours a day if she could. But the headaches were just starting to really become a bother for her. So not having the headaches, I mean, the poor kid would fall asleep with like hot packs or ice packs on her head because her eyes were hurting so bad and we didn't know what was going on. So, I mean, she literally would fall asleep. Sometimes it was the ice pack, sometimes it was like a warm water bottle. So that going away pretty fast was huge. And then the fact that she loves reading. So she was able to do more and more and more of it and not get frustrated and not, think it was a he first and then a she and wait a second, what did I just read? Not have to go back. So now she's been able to like get into all of her favorite classics and just keep progressing with her reading. And when your child loves to read, it just makes you feel good. So just the whole feeling in the house is just you're just more content, because your kids are happy and then you're happy. So, like I said, it's priceless.